All right, welcome back to episode 3 of the VRF Tech Talk podcast. I'm again joined by Roman Ball. I want to say a big shout out to our sponsor, EEV Mate, for helping us out getting this thing rolling. Today we're going to talk about data. I think one of the biggest topics that everybody's wanted to see from us. So we're going to look at some data. It's Daikin data, so for some of you LG, Samsung, Mitsubishi carrier guys, sorry, but we'll get to you eventually.
Your equipment doesn't matter is what he's saying, and so that's all you need to know is what he's saying. Yes.
All equipment matters.
Well, so data is also one of those things, right? I mean, I cover a ton of it on my YouTube channel. I get a lot of requests for it. Actually, the one we're going to look at today comes from a gentleman, Matthew Welch. I told him to call me out on one of my YouTube videos, and he did. So guess what? You ended up in the podcast, buddy. So that's what you get for calling me out. You get blasted on socials. No, not just kidding. But for this one here, we can roll into the data. So to Donald's point, we want to talk about how we bring in the data, how we roll through it. Everybody has their different perspectives when analyzing data. Donald looks at it a certain way. I look at it a certain way. There is no wrong way to look at data. It's just how do you extract the relevant information. If you want to work it backwards, you work it backwards. You want to work it forwards, you work it forwards. You want to pick it apart in pieces. Whatever gets you to the solution the fastest is what we would recommend. So we're going to show you different styles today and the kind of the basics. So,
all right. So I think the first thing I want to share is I'm going to share my screen and kind of go through the layout of the Daikin Service Checker tool and how we import data, because this is the first time I've seen the data. I don't know, Roman, if you've looked at it yet, but this is the first time I've seen the data. So it'd be nice to kind of show people how to import that to the Service Checker tool for remote viewing. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen.
Go for it. Yeah, because also the other thing that really makes this difficult is Service Checker data as a whole is kind of a shroud of mystery where the connection between recording it and getting it and then taking it off your laptop and sending it to somebody and then uploading it, it's like, all these different file types and sizes and it's a super pain.
Sure. So one of the most common things that I get is, what do we do with this folder? Do you just double click it? What do we do with it? So one of the things that we got to be careful of is when we have data that comes in this compressed zipped folder, we have to unzip it first. It doesn't do anything for you if it's still zipped up. So if you right click it and hit extract all, it's going to dump that data into a folder on our desktop. Now I have to go grab it from a different screen, so bear with me for a second.
Dang your multi-screen abilities.
Yeah.
It does help when you're looking at Service Checker data.
So now I have this folder on our desktop, and we open that folder, and we could see inside of there that there is going to be some files that it's going to open up. So we see two DOS files. So what these are is the proprietary file name for Daikin Service Checker. So you won't be able to do anything with it until you use the software program. So we'll go ahead and close that window. On the Service Checker software, the first thing we're going to click on is Data Transfer.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Now we have to use our Windows tree on the right-hand side to navigate to our desktop where that file is located. Now, my computer's full of crap, so just bear with me.
As all of our computers should be full of crap. And a lot of times, too, people will click on that C drive accidentally instead of clicking down the drop-down arrow, and it'll be like a user access denied. You just hit the OK button and just pretend like Windows doesn't know what it's talking about. Because that's typical Windows.
Where's D3 data? What is it? Daikin data. Where's that at?
Daikin data on the desktop.
Daikin
there you
data.
go.
There it is. All right, cool. So there's our two pieces of information. So we'll go ahead and push these from the right side to the left side using this arrow or the F2 key. So now when they come in there, they should be at the very bottom of this list.
Go ahead and, before you hit cancel, will you hit the over arrow again, just so they can see what happens if the data is already in the folder? So if you already imported it, you're going to get a message like this, and this message basically means, hey, do you want to copy over something you already have, idiot? And you say, no, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, I got really, really excited with my clicks. And
But this also brings up another good point, is when you go actually create the file, always put in a customer ID and a customer name. Make them unique, because if you send somebody data with nothing in there, how do we know what we're supposed to look at?
Yeah.
So it's always very important to use customer ID and customer name when you're sending data to somebody or you're starting a recording.
Yes, and not only that, this is the part I'm going to slap you with. When you're recording data on Service Checker, you have to remember that the system architecture and design in this program allows you to view any condenser on that same F1,
Yeah.
F2 out circuit. So if you have 3 sets of outdoor units, 3 separate systems on one ITM, on a plus adapter, whatever it is, they're viewable on Service Checker. So how does it organize those? It organizes those by System 1, System 2, System 3, System 4, however many systems are connected. If it's eight outdoor units on one ITM, or wherever you're landing your Service Checker, you'll get 8 systems. So why is that important to understand? Because when you send someone the data and you don't know what system number it is in that order, pecking order, they've got to go through 8 sets of data to find out which system really has the problem. So that's where that AirNet address on your outdoor unit comes in, right? Setting mode 113 or 213 actually, to change that AirNet address on the outdoor unit so that you can see what module am I actually working on. Okay, write in my actual service ticket notes or write a note somewhere on my phone saying, hey, when I went to this job on this day, I was looking at system 4 out of, 1 out of 4 when I looked at the Service Checker data. That way, when you send it, you know, when you pull it up in here, when you're exporting it, because you can do the same thing as importing as exporting, you can move it over to a folder, you're going to export system 4, not 1, 2, and 3. It just drives me crazy. People say, hey, I have a problem, and then I get 6 freaking sets of data, which is great. They can send it, and I love that, but, I mean, which of the 6 is it? Like, let me just analyze 6 systems for you. Yeah. By the way, the system you said had a problem. Well, guess what? All 6 of them have problems.
Right. So I got a new computer, so my data sets are pretty small. So when you,
it's okay. I won't judge you.
When you look at it, I mean, I still got a ton of data in here, but right. Take for instance this project right here, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, which one was it?
Yeah.
Right. Was it 1, 2, or 3? Was it system 1, 2, or 3, or was it system 1 or 2?
Yeah. Help the person out that you're sending this to, because it's already, analyzing Service Checker data it is difficult for most people, and it's time consuming. Like, just eliminate that time and understand what system number you're sending.
Yeah.
And again, that can be randomly populated too every time you turn on the Service Checker. So what might be the system 1 that time is system 3 the next time you turn the Service Checker on. That's the beauty of the program. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So,
but to that point as well, is like some of the data sets that I have in my folder here, right? 185 hours, 50 hours, 148 hours, 172 hours. If I got 172 hours of data, I'd be kind of upset if I'm rolling through it and I'm like, oh, by the way, that was system 1, not system 2 that you're supposed to look at.
Well, and not only that too, but the 148-hour service recording that you have, which is great, right? The more information, the better. However, when I'm sending someone data, I can say, hey, 148 hours. Now, I can pull out when the error code tripped, but if you could just tell me what date and time the error code also tripped, I could just literally go to that spot in the 148 hours. Now, mind you, usually the data I get sent is 15 minutes worth. But to that point, again, the more information when you're recording these things, when you're writing your service tickets, when you're evaluating these systems, you may not think they matter. At least take a picture of the error code on the ITM or the centralized controller or the thermostat, for goodness sakes. Just so you have it. Yeah. Yep. So
Roman, which data set do you want to look at here? System 1 or System 2?
You can take 1. I want 2. Right. I have a good feeling about 2. I shook my magic 8 ball and it says I should select 2. Right. So his complaints are that basically, the unit, it was working, then they had a compressor that failed, they replaced the compressor, didn't tell me what the error code for the compressor was, and now they're having intermittent F3 error codes on the system. So not knowing which data set he sent me, thank you, Matthew, we're going to go through both and see which one has a problem. And I can almost guarantee they probably both have problems. So,
all right, well.
So, Donald, walk us through your first step here. Just the first step, not the whole process.
My first step is I'd like to verify that we're actually seeing in the right order here. Sometimes when you discover systems, that these O systems will be somewhere else in the data set. Yep. So I just like to find that first, so I know I need to go back to the top if I want to check for what mode the machine's running in, or if it's actually thermal on, I like to see that at the top. Sometimes it won't be. Sometimes it's mixed in the data sets underneath of O1. Sometimes it's O2. Sometimes at the end. But I like to verify that that's at the top, so I know that if I ever need to go back there, that's exactly where I'm going. The other
Yep.
reason I do that is because that's where I can find defrost and auto return. So when you're going through a lot of this data, sometimes you'll see some data that'll make you go cross-eyed because you're like, this thing was running full heat, and then all of a sudden I'm into cooling. What's going on?
Yeah.
Oh, I might have hit a defrost, or
Yep.
I'm in auto return, right? So using those data points can help you make sure that you're viewing that and not misinterpreting the data that you're seeing.
Yep. And so, my tidbit to that is, if you're starting out looking at service checker data for the first time, or you're new to this and you're still getting your feet wet, you're trying to grasp the concepts. I know I harp and teach operation control modes. However, when you are starting out, that's a little complex. And so you're already trying to understand discharge superheating, suction superheating, subcooling, and system subcooling. Operation control mode is that advanced level of understanding the diagnostic features and confirming your diagnosis. So don't think that you need to jump into the list that I shared for operation control mode. To Donald's point, I still use defrost and oil return and startup control because, again, nice little blue labels at the bottom that pop up that you can see when they start, when they stop. But if I'm looking for a very detailed analysis and I want to know why this stuff is doing some weird stuff, my eyes are going cross-eyed, right? It's like, whoa. I'm going to go to operation control mode to see specifically what's going on. So both are great. If you're starting out, just do the items defrost, oil return, startup control. Again, if you want it more advanced and you've been doing this a while and you want to take it to the next level, operation control mode.
Yep. So the second thing I usually do is use this F2 key to zoom out of the data completely. When your default data comes in, it's zoomed in granular level. So we're seeing the data graph go from 60240 to 60310. So we're only getting about 30 seconds of data right there, right? Or 40 seconds of data. So I like to zoom out all the way so I can see an hour's worth of data or 2 hours worth of data across the screen. And then if you need to drill in, if you find something, drill in. But to catch something that's an intermittent issue, the more data you can see on the screen at one time, the better off you're going to be.
Yes. Yeah. No, and so to that point too as well, if you're recording service checker data anything less than 60 seconds, you're just kind of wasting space. There's guys who like to record every 20 seconds. If you're that guy who likes to record every 5 seconds, I can't stand you. Yeah, it's just Donald for sure. Now, sure. If you do every 60 seconds, you're going to catch everything that happens in that system. However, maybe you want to do every 50 seconds because you're extra and you think that something's happening between that 60-second window. It's 59.8 seconds, Roman. So sure, do that. But again, the larger timestamps that you do with 60 seconds, because that's how often it refreshes for some things. Some things take 5 minutes on the older series. Sometimes some are 2 minutes. But the 60-second recording window allows you to zoom out further than 2 hours, right? So when I zoom out, when it's recording every 60 seconds, I can get a 6-hour window in one data graph here. When I do it every 20 seconds like this one is, I can't do that, right? My max is 3 hours. So just keep that in mind when you are doing record on Service Checker.
And then also to that point, just keep in mind the refresh rate of the actual point. Most of the data that's coming out of the Service Checker is going to be roughly 30 to 60 seconds. So go ahead and granular to 5 seconds. It's just wasted space at that point. If we pull this out and look at it in like an Excel sheet, you'll see 86.9 for 10 rows in a row, and it's just it's pointless data.
Yeah. Nope.
So
save yourself some hassle. Set it up right every 60 seconds.
60 seconds is a good time frame. I think it defaults for 30 anyway, but digging into the data. Go ahead.
No, what's next? What do you look at next?
What's next is I like to get a kind of an idea of the entire recording to see if there is any error codes that trip. So I literally just zoom right through to the end of it and see if that bar graph that I picked for number 7 trips at all. And luckily in this one it didn't. So this is where it gets a little difficult. If there's an actual system complaint from the end user on this system, then we start having to look at all the numbers that make us go cross-eyed. But because there's an actual complaint, I think Roman gets the good system with an actual issue. So we'll still dig through information on this one just to see how the general operation of the system and health check on this. So
Well, and so to that point, no error code, which
No
is
error
common
code.
for VRF, right? So just because your unit tripped an error code, congratulations, you got one that's pretty easy to solve. Most of us who have to go out in the field, it's a system that hasn't tripped the error code, but the customer is complaining. 1 unit, 2 units, whatever, not keeping up, excessive defrost, whatever it is, coils full of ice, right? These are the typical VRF systems you're going to see out in the field. And so, what is next?
What is next? I usually key in on the discharge temperature of the compressor. And I like to look at both if it has it. But one thing that we're noticing here right off the bat is that this discharge pipe temperature on compressor 2 is reading 32 degrees. Now, 32 is a valid number, but working with these Daikin systems, you know that you see 32 or 254.6. It's usually a sensor that does not exist. So I'm pretty confident in saying that this is a single compressor system.
And the way you can also confirm that too is if you populate it, you can scroll from front to back on the system, and if there are no dips or marks or ups or downs, it won't take. It'll just you can rule it out, right? If there's no change, and it doesn't match ambient, there's the other one, right? Even with a crankcase heater, if it doesn't match ambient, it's probably just not there.
All right. So now we're trending the discharge temperature on that compressor, and it's reading 201s. It's pretty warm. It's setting a mental flag in my head that says you should probably watch that. It's getting a little bit warmer than I like to see on operation, especially when the outside air is 5 degrees. So we got a compressor that's working pretty hard, and we got a really cold ambient temperature. So we're seeing some work out of that compressor. So those two things are setting mental flags in my head to say, hey, just keep that in mind, that while you're going through the rest of this data, that discharge temperature was 201 degrees. Keep an eye on that for the rest of the data set.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and so in discharge temperature 2, like when you populate it there, I like to go right to the max, right? So like if I'm a mountain climber, right, I want the biggest mountain there is, and I want to go all the way to the top. And so when I populate discharge temp, it's me looking for how high does it ever get in this data set. And wherever the highest point is, that's where I'm going, right? I want the action. And here you can see 242.
242.
Which
toasty.
Is a roasty, toasty compressor, right?
Yeah.
Something else we also notate and know is that discharge temperatures that are around the 240 mark, even a little bit below 240, we know that internally to that compressor, it is hotter than the temperature that you see on the discharge temp. Discharge temp is measured usually, it's like it depends on the model, right? It could be 6 inches, it could be 12 inches, depending on where they set that discharge temperature sensor, discharge temperature thermistor on the discharge line. But again, if your discharge temperatures are one thing, you can almost guarantee the internal compressor of the temperature is usually 30 degrees higher. And we know that PBE oil begins to carbonize at 247 degrees, which tells me that the oil in this compressor is toast.
Yeah, it's probably...
So if it doesn't die now and he fixes the problem, it's going to die eventually.
It's on its way soon. The other thing to look at, too, is the compressor surface temperature at that point. We're thinking, okay, the compressor surface temperature and the discharge temperature, they go up at the same rate. They seem to follow the same graph. There's no internal cooling on this compressor, so something's going on, whether we have a charge issue or oil return issue right off the bat. Those are the gears that start spinning in my head. Is I got a hot compressor with a hot discharge. Where's my cooling not at? And right now, I don't think our compressor is cooling very well.
Yeah, and again, you can see discharge temperature spike after like a defrost or oil return or whatever. But again, the compressor surface temperature is going to give you a pretty accurate gauge also on the compressor. If you're in a VRV4 series or later, and usually X's are the ones where the compressor body thermistor really came into clutch of having them all the time.
Yeah. So then, just scrolling through again, another temperature that looks erroneous, the leak detection temperature. I would ignore that for now.
Yep.
We're looking at our heat exchanger, and I really don't know enough about the system currently to say, okay, these numbers may or may not be bad. They're really cold, so it does seem kind of odd, especially because we have a liquid temperature up on top. The subcooling circuit is 62, so some point we got, moderate temperature liquid coming back from the indoor side. We're running 45 amps on a compressor. That thing is screaming, but let's look at our RPS. RPS is 105, so depending on the model of this outdoor unit, right, that compressor is probably 3/4 of the way loaded, so it's moving pretty hard, and we're getting pretty hot discharge out of it. Our low side pressure, I mean, it is 5-degree ambient, so it's okay. But let's go back to the top when we're saying I like to find these. We're running in heating only mode, so low pressure isn't really an important characteristic to me right now. So we're looking at the high pressure, 372. I mean, that's okay. It's not the greatest because we are a little bit shorter than our target, but I give myself about a 10% leeway from target to actual, to where I think that I'm probably going to have an issue. So scrolling past that, once I get kind of the general idea of what I think might be going on in this machine based on the discharge temperature, the body temperature, I'm going to skip over almost everything else. I'm going to take a look at the safeties. And right off the bat, we see we're tripping discharge step down, and that makes sense, right? We hit 240 something degrees, and the compressor needed to back itself off. So if we looked at the RPS of that compressor as we hit these discharges, we're going to see it start backing down.
Yep.
And we can see that, right? We hit our discharge, and then we start falling off on speed. Our temperature kind of equalizes, and we come back out of it. We did hit another one right here because it still was pretty warm.
Yep. So remember, you guys go to the service manual and you look at that, what that safety control is designed to do, and it's designed to limit the compressor speed, lower its actual RPS, normalize and level out discharge temperature, and then once that clears after a certain period of time, it will then disengage that safety and allow the compressor to ramp back up again.
Yep. So we see that happening, right? Our compressor speed came down to, at the minimum there, go back up, to about 66 RPS. So that's, 3 steps off the baseline, depending on the model. And then as soon as that discharge temperature equalizes, right, that compressor went right back up to 120 RPS, 119 RPS. And our discharge temperature starts climbing again. But we didn't trip any safeties, so I'm thinking maybe we should start looking at the indoor information to see what's going on, what kind of load do we have in there, do we have one fan coil that's being a hog, do we have something else going on? So the second thing is we just found our second outdoor unit. So we got a little discrepancy on our discharge pipe temperatures, right? It's still warm, but it's not spiking like the second one. I'm gonna skip over the other section of the outdoor here, and go to the indoors to see what we're kind of looking at. I want to see in the range that we come out of our safety. I want to see what we have actually calling, right? We have 2 items here that are kind of misleading. We have operation start stop, and we have thermostat on. A lot of people will see this operation start stop and say, okay, well, my unit's on, like it must be running. But realistically, it's on, but it's not thermally on. So we're in a state where the unit is satisfied.
Yep. So operation stop is basically the green light is on the thermostat, right? It's saying, hey, if your temperatures go above the set point or below the set point, whatever the mode is, I will turn into whatever mode I'm in, right? I'll turn into cooling or I'll turn into heating. And then the off part for the thermostat on just means that there is no actual live thermal demand. And we all know that heating units, when they are on at the thermostat, but not actually calling for demand, they will go to 200 pulses and allow hot gas to bleed through that coil. Because remember, our evaporator coil, or heat exchanger, right? Because right now it's actually a condenser. Our heat exchanger, when it gets hot gas in it and it's closed, the expansion valve 100%, what happens to that hot gas? Well, eventually it condenses, right? It condenses in that evaporator and we start to stack liquid. And so the way to avoid stacking liquid inside of evaporators or heat exchangers, we actually open that valve 200 pulses, min pulses, and actually just trickle that gas through there. And it's also for oil return. So we don't want to stack liquid and we don't want to stack oil. And the way it does that is 200 pulses in heating. That doesn't mean, this comes back to that other problem where people complain about heat in the space because if the fan coil is oversized or, whatever may have you, that this 200 pulses, it keeps the coil hot. So factory setting for most all indoor units from Daikin is low fan speed after satisfied. And so if it goes to low fan speed and the coil is allowing hot gas to go through the coil in a small trickle amount, over time it might actually overheat the space. So the way you fix that, change field settings, turn the fan to off when it's thermally satisfied, right? And then you won't have to worry about blowing hot air in the space or overheating the space. So it's a common issue. Okay, anyways, we're not talking about that. We're here to talk about F3s.
Yeah, well,
which did we even cover what an F3 is? We should probably start there for everybody.
Not yet. I think we might look at the other data set to see. There's there's some decent operation on this machine, but based on that discharge temperature and what the rest of the system looks like, I mean, most of these units that are thermal on are getting pretty close to being a happy value. I'd be interested to see what the install location for this outdoor looks like. If it's just in the outdoor air, if it's in a pen, do we have ductwork on the top of it?
Yeah, no, it's
this
all
unit
relevant.
this unit looks like it's. This is one of the first ones I saw that was thermal on. It looks like it's attempting to run. The expansion valve though is staying pegged at 200 pulses, even though we have a call. Now, the set point is near temperature, so it's not really drawing a lot of heat, but that coil is just really not warming up. It says we have 137 gas coming in, we're only getting 80 out. Do we really have that much cooling or enough heating load on that coil to maintain that temperature? The expansion valve is telling us no.
Well, and so this brings up a great point in the data sets. When we talk about heating mode is completely different than cooling mode because, again, we have the 200 pulses. But there's this thing called hot start, and hot start doesn't show up in the data. There is no line item for it. There is no mode that says, hey, I'm in hot start. And what does hot start mean? Hot start means that the coil has to get to a certain temperature in and out before it actually opens up the expansion valve to deliver capacity to that fan coil. So again, it'll go to 200 pulses. Once it hits 200 pulses, it's looking for a leaving temperature, indoor liquid pipe, which is leaving, right? Your liquid is leaving the coil. It's looking for a leaving temperature around 100 degrees, right? And so when it hits that 100 degrees leaving, right, not entering, it'll hit 137 entering, but that other one was at 80 degrees leaving. When that 80 gets up to 100, then the valve says, okay, my coil is hot. It's full of hot gas. Open up expansion valve and start actually delivering capacity, like you can see there with the one that Donald just brought up, which goes to 1,500 pulses.
Yeah.
Which is 134 in and a 105 out.
But our return temperature is in the gutter. So this space looks really cold.
It's a little chilly. Yeah, it's a little teeny tiny chilly. 50 degrees is a little cold.
So this unit is trying to heat the best it can. That expansion valve is going basically full open.
Yes.
And trying to maintain that, but it just can't do it.
Yep.
Right, our space temperature actually dropped in that time. So
well, you can also see the erratic behavior of the brown line, right?
Yeah.
Which probably tells us it goes into defrost.
Let's see.
I'm calling it defrost.
I'm gonna go with defrost as well. So that's our rotation, our compressor speed. Ooh. It does go to defrost. So that means that our outdoor coil probably iced up a little bit at that time. And to me, I this is the worst diagnosis ever, but I'm venturing to guess to say this machine is starving for air and might be a little short on refrigerant.
Okay, so also remember, guys, we talk about defrost, how long it lasts. We talk about defrost and how many times it happens. And again, if a space is having a difficulty maintaining temperature, it's 50 degrees inside, and the space is 57, but the set point is 70 or 75, whatever it may have you, the issue then becomes maybe the defrosts are so often and frequent that, again, it doesn't run enough to deliver enough heating capacity at any given time to actually keep that space warm.
Yeah. So let's see.
How much further you want to go in yours before I tear mine open here?
Let's go ahead and swap. I mean, overall, this data set isn't terrible. The indoor units do look like they're trying to achieve heat, but I just don't think there's enough refrigerant to feed all of them in a load, so that's why we're getting hotter than we like.
Yep, okay, so I will go ahead and share my screen now, and we'll go 1,000,000 miles an hour because I like to talk fast, and just work our way through this particular data set. Now, let's talk about something really quickly. I'm not sure why I shared that window and not the other. Share something else. So when we talk about F3, it's important to remember that F3 is actually different per model. So when we talk about VRV3, F3 is actually a malfunction of discharge pipe thermistor. However, as we get into the later generation series here, we're going to get into an F3-01. The 01, the sub error codes were added VRV4 and on. And so that 01 and that error code actually means something different. It's not a faulty thermistor. It's saying that we've hit high pressure, high temperature actually on the discharge line of the actual compressors. And what do we know about high discharge? High discharge is a bad thing, especially when it gets up into the ranges to actually trip an error code. It's happened 3 times within 60 minutes. It's a bad thing. Okay, so Donald has his way of doing data, and I do mine a little bit different, but kind of close to the same thing. To his point, right, we could do operation control mode. This is 19. We know that's full fixed heating. As you can see, we kind of dance around here into some defrost area. I should zoom out. What am I doing? Okay, here we go. That looks better. As you can see, we got some defrost, probably some oil returns in there. Again, the defrost gives us that before and after little snippet up on top and then across and then back down again. Then we can jump over here. So we'll get rid of that. We're not doing operation control mode today since you didn't. I won't cheat. Okay, gosh. We're in 100% heating mode. So knowing that we're in 100% heating mode, I can go ahead and take my target evaporator temp and say, I don't need you. Get out of here. The less things you display on the screen, the better off we are. So knowing that we have a target condensing temp, and this is one that a lot of people like to hang their hat on really quickly. So let's just do this in reverse and show the things that people think matter, and break their worlds apart and tell them it doesn't matter. Something that does matter and doesn't matter, right? So just because it's maintaining targets does not mean a system is operating correctly. That is the biggest lie that anybody has ever told. That is a huge myth, right? Just because the system is meeting targets, so the black line is my target, the red line is what it's trying to actually hit the target. So the red is trying to meet the black, right? This is our condensing temperature set point, is the black. The red is our actual condensing temp. So although it may be hitting set point, and let's say it mirrored it perfectly, I'd say, it's great, we're good, your data is great. No, that doesn't mean anything, right? But it is useful when we step back and we look at it and we say, okay, did it ever hit target? And if we look at this, it's like the little engine that could. It's a really sad story, actually. If we zoom through it, does it ever? And it does eventually, right? This is your average Hollywood movie, right? There's a lot of conflict and turmoil at the beginning, and then the hero actually wins. Okay, cool. But still, all this irregularity that we see, like all the waves, all the ups and downs, usually is a great sign and an indicator of issues within the system, right? Especially here at the very beginning part of the data set. Condensing temp is great, targets are great, and as you notice too, targets don't change a whole lot. Something about targets I also love to mention, and Donald, you could probably expand on this too. What happens, Donald, when the unit sets an unrealistic actual set point for your targets?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question. It depends on the unrealistic target that you set. So,
okay, yeah, go ahead.
If you take, for instance, test operation, right? And we look at our targets in test operation. One of the biggest no-nos about sending data to somebody to analyze is don't send them test operation data. It is the worst data that machine will ever display in its entire life. The point of test operation is to help the machine set the targets, but in that instance, it drives the targets to the gutter. Yep. So using that information, it's very pointless to review unless you've got cross zones or valves that aren't open or install related issues that you could find with that information. But the targets really need to be, or the data needs to be really reviewed under normal operation. Now, to kind of go back to what Roman was saying is the targets, why it's not ultimately important for that to take place is, right off the bat, he got rid of the evaporator information, right? We don't care for the evaporator right now because we're in heating mode, but that doesn't mean that target's not going to line up. If that low pressure target lines up, like, there still could be an issue with something else in the machine. So it's kind of irrelevant data to hang your hat on that again and say, hey, my target is met. Yep. Why do I care?
Yep. No, and it's important to remember too, and it doesn't. It's all over the place too. But in heating mode, the unit is only controlling compressor speeds off of target condensing temp. So again, if my compressor is acting erratic, what does my target condensing temp look like? What does my condensing temp look like? If I'm in cooling mode or I'm in parallel operation, I might plot both to see which one it's actually trying to drive to. And again, it'll hit that and stop modulating compressors, right? And if it overshoots it, then it'll slow the compressor down. If it's still under it, it's going to ramp the compressor up. And here, when we threw those when we threw those step downs, which again, I'm sure this one has the same thing. when we throw those step downs, it's also important to know that, when we look at that across the hole here, it tried to hit the target and then it got way too hot. And so it went back down again. And then it tried to hit the target and then it went back down again. And so we are still, well, okay, so there you go. So mine's a little bit better than yours. Sorry about that. You can see here we've got large segments of high discharge step down, right? This is a lot of red flags. Actually, there we go. It stays on the entire time towards the end of this data. I would say, Matthew, this is your bad system number 2, but also you've got issues with system number 1, man. I'm sorry, I hate to tell you, but they both have problems. This one is probably a lot worse than the other. And again, no error code, right? Error codes don't mean that the system is broken and like, let's go fix it and push buttons and reset it. No, if it doesn't have an error code, but you have a bunch of safety controls that are on all the time. I mean, I've got both compressors actually on step down, right, for this system. And I'm sure if I go and I populate the other one, they mirror each other all the way across the board for both modules, right? And this here is a huge red flag, especially as long and far out as this is. Because remember, we're looking at a 2 hours worth of data here in one viewpoint, and it just kind of never comes out of it. So you can see where it starts up the system, and this is normal, right? When you say that's normal, Donald, when a system restarts, when you put service checker on and you populate the update map, it's normal for it to get a little wonky first 15, 20, 30 minutes to settle out. Yeah, once it goes to restart standby, it's got to start over again, right? It's got to build head pressure, shift four-way valves, do all this fun stuff. But eventually it will level out and it'll show you, what the issue is or what the issue looks like after it's leveled out for a while. So even if we jump in here where lines aren't changing drastically, we're still in safety control mode. Let's go to my favorite thing in the whole wide world. Discharge superheat, right? Discharge superheat is one of those big things. We actually took a poll internally here recently, didn't we?
Yeah.
What do you look at? We went to the experts of experts, all the people, no names. What do you look at first? And the guys who have been doing this a very long time, discharge superheat is the number one thing we got back that everybody jumps to first. And the reason that is because it tells us so much about the compressor. It tells us so much about the refrigerant charge. It tells us about the system and its health and the oil and all of the things that go along with system longevity for VRV systems. So here you can see 226.4 over 113. We are over 100 degrees discharge superheat, which is a really bad thing, right? That means that we've got no oil in that compressor. We've probably got no refrigerant coming back to that compressor. This looks like a charge issue. Where would you go next, Donald, right? We know discharge superheat is crazy high. What else would you look at?
I'm going to roll the dice and go indoor EEV positions.
Ooh. Sounds like you're playing craps. Roll the dice and throw them on the table here. Okay, indoor EEV positions. Let's start from the top and work our way down. All right, so no thermal demand. We have thermal demand, 248 pulses. So low. Okay, we have thermal demand, 352 pulses. Low. Okay, we have thermal demand, 200 pulses. And again, it doesn't come out of the 200 pulses because our indoor liquid pipe temp hasn't hit the 100 degree mark yet. Okay, so it's stuck there. Sorry, see you later. 103, it opened up. Wow, look at that. 315, 200. Let's see here, probably just hit the 200 mark. Oh no, it stays at 200. Okay, nice. So there's a problem with the system here. Again, this one's at 200 on. That one's off. Oh, so 200 because it's off. Duh, right? No thermal demand there. Thermal demand here, 330, 443, 225, 250, 600, 140. Okay, so now here, looking at the indoor valve pulses, what would be your next thought process here, Donald, in looking at valve pulses? We're all low. It's low pulses.
I'm seeing all those expansion valves that are like 315 to 500, and it looks like we've got decent coil heat. I'd be interested to see what the subcool is on our largest opening valve, what our subcooling value is.
I love that. Largest. So he is saying that the unit that is getting the most refrigerant, right? Because remember, all these valves are the same size, guys, right? Depending on where they're connected in the system. Could be longest, could be furthest, could be shortest. Just because it's at the bottom of the list doesn't mean it's the last connected unit. Don't make that assumption, because you would be wrong. He wants to go to the indoor unit that has the most pulses, which I think was 602, right?
That's the biggest.
Yes. And so he wants to see where the most refrigerant should be flowing. What does it look like?
All right, so we got 103 over 128. And what's our condensing temperature?
All right, he wants to know. Put it on the board, Johnny. Da-da-da-da. 10, was that 103?
103, yeah.
Scrolling. All right, and we are at 113.
Okay.
So what does that tell us?
It seems to have decent subcooling back to the outdoor unit.
Yes, we have decent subcooling at the actual indoor unit. Now, this is the part that I love the most. Okay, so we find I love to do it this way too. So you do the largest valve pulses, which I love. It's great. There's a lot of ways to skin this cat. This poor cat. I like to find the highest liquid temp, right? So there's 104 here. That one's 137, 103.7. I think 104 is probably going to be the highest.
Yeah.
Did you see high? No, 105.
105, okay. Yeah.
Watch out. Overachiever, I like that. 107, that's pretty high. Okay.
71, okay.
Well, this one's off though, so I don't think we call it. So that
Thermal
does play a
on
factor too, right? No thermal off, guys. Okay, we're not cheating here. Okay.
So
We want to find a unit that's thermal on. That one's off too. So that's the only reason those liquids are high, right? So it's probably going to be the one that we already had, right? The most posted. So, okay. You win, Donald. Okay? You win. Whatever. Okay? Screw you. 103.7.
Well, 104
It's
right
on.
underneath.
Yeah, okay. So 103.7. Okay, now what is our liquid temp entering our outdoor unit?
Ooh.
Oh, what's the change between leaving the hottest fan coil that is on, the most eligible bachelor fan coils, to the actual outdoor unit? And so where are we looking here? Is it receiver? No. Subcooling. What are we looking for here, Donald? Receiver inlet temp? Or are we looking for
subcooler gas? Yeah,
subcooler heat
subcooler.
exchanger gas liquid temp?
Why is it so cold?
Why is it so cold? What happens to refrigerant that moves really slow, right? How do we what fan coil is between here and the outdoor unit that's subcooling the crap out of this refrigerant?
Yeah, where are we getting all this free? Like, we've reinvented the wheel here. We figured out how to make cold refrigerant with just pipe.
So then what I say is, when you go here, okay, so 46.4, let's follow the path of refrigerant. So we're going through this. Where do we go next after subcooling? Let's follow the flow of refrigerant in the outdoor unit.
Do you want to continue on the subcooling circuit, or do you want to go back into the receiver side now?
I want to go back to the receiver side.
All right, well,
So
we've
40
now dropped
Yep.
again 20 degrees.
So we go from, in the path of refrigerant for liquid, into the unit, 46.4, okay? Then through the subcooling circuit, which means we're subcooling refrigerant, right, to 24.8. And again, we can confirm how wide open that valve is here. It's peg the F open. She's like, full send, buddy. 480 pulses, okay?
Juice.
What do we know about valves that are wide open? It's a bad thing, right? Should not be give me the juice. So it's subcooling a ton, which means it's trying to get as much vapor back to the compressor as possible to keep the compressor what? Cool. What does the subcool valve do, Donald? Let's talk about that really quickly. What does it do?
I think it's best to then define what subcooling is in a VRF system versus a regular conventional system.
Okay, go for it.
The subcooling circuit in that EEV or in the VRF is to provide, to put a dumb word, cooled hot refrigerant. Does that make sense?
Cool hot refrigerant.
Cooled, like we're bringing the
reducing the
temperature of that hot refrigerant down, right? We said our liquid coming in was 103. We're going through that subcooling circuit and we're cooling that refrigerant off.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yes, reducing temperature. How about that?
That's how it works in my head. Now, I don't have a scientific definition for it, but that's how it works in my head.
Okay, I'll take it. Yeah. Well, and again, like we're all just trying to understand this. And I actually have.
Oh,
There we go. Oh yeah. You like them graphics. Oh yeah. What is that? Like 1995 graphics. So we had 46 degrees here, right? And then it went through our circuit, And in the process of going through our circuit, liquid receiver temp. So it says so would that temperature be here or would that be leaving our liquid receiver? Because that is also the question. Because your subcooler is here on VRV4, right? This is your plate-in-plate heat exchanger.
Actually, the receiver inlet temperature is over here on the far right.
Okay, yes, on the far right going into our actual line. So again, the question now becomes, which of these temperatures here, right? So we have receiver inlet temp 24.8, and then we have subcooled heat exchanger liquid 46.4. So if we're saying that this is before, is this before or is this after? That's the question. Because again, we get, yeah, go ahead.
Subcooled liquid heat exchanger, that is the temperature that's coming into the unit. So that's prior to going into any other orifices or expansions or anything.
Because again, that liquid line and cooling is measuring subcooling in that spot, right? And so for this, it's measured here, right? And then we're coming over to the actual liquid receiver here, because this is heating mode, so we're going backwards. We don't want to check at liquid receiver, because at liquid receiver, we could easily pick up the wrong temperature, right? Because this right here is your liquid receiver temp, right there. Yep. So Donald accurately pointed out, in heating mode, we're flip-flopping where we check subcooling. Very important to understand. You check subcooling in one spot for the actual, oh no, I broke it. In the actual, in cooling mode, we're checking subcooling where? Liquid receiver here on the top right-hand side. In heating mode, we're checking subcooling where? Here. So why do we have a 60-degree temperature drop between the indoor units and the outdoor unit? Does the liquid line run through a lake? Maybe. Maybe not. I'm pretty sure this is downtown somewhere. So what happens to refrigerant that we see that's starting to subcool? And then again, it goes through this circuit. It comes back out the other side. It's even cooler, 24 degrees. Then we go where? We go to the outdoor expansion valves, right?
Yep.
Okay. Where are outdoor expansion valves?
It's after the receiver inlet temp.
Which is these here. Liquid temp, heat exchanger, liquid pipe temp, right? This is your low pressure state, right? Would you agree? Yes? Yep.
We're
good,
expanded.
Good. And then we're measuring superheat across the coils. How much heat does it actually pick up across that coil? Wait a minute. What's going on here, Donald?
Where do we get colder?
What is going on? What is life?
Super subcooler. Super subcooler.
So, again, what's taking place here?
We need the exhibit meme that says, I got subcooling for your subcooling.
So we've got liquid being generated at the indoor unit, and then it gets subcooled on the way to the outdoor unit, and then we're continuing to go to the outdoor unit, and we go through the expansion valve, and then we go through the heat exchanger, and instead of picking up heat in the heat exchanger, we're getting colder and colder and colder, and then we're coming out the other side, and then going where? What's next?
To our lovely accumulator.
Well, and so on here, I don't think we have accumulator temp, do we? I'm not missing it, am I? I go so fast sometimes. I just
don't
go right
know
over
which machine it is. There should be. Oh, maybe not. It might have that gas purge sensor that's kind of close, but
yeah, I know what you're talking about. So it's compressor suction pipe temp, right?
Yeah, that's close.
35.6 degrees. What do we know about suction superheat, right? Negative 0.4 degrees is our actual TE, and our compressor is at 35. That's a 40-degree suction superheat. High discharge superheat, high suction superheat, but then you go, wait a minute, but you have high subcooling. And I go, is it though? Is it actually liquid? Because I'm pretty sure it might not be liquid. That's the thing, guys, right? Just because it's on the liquid line and you say, well, look at it. I am subcooling the F out of this refrigerant. It's like, no, you're not. Your liquid is turned to a vapor in your liquid line, and it made it all the way back to the outdoor unit, and it's still continuing to change states as it goes through. It's important to remember when systems are low on charge, extremely critical charge, it's really, 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 really low. And it's still continuing to operate in extreme conditions because, again, we're 10 degrees outside. You have to remember that at certain points, you have to ask the question, is it a liquid or is it a vapor, right? Is it a liquid or is it a vapor? And again, we would say that it is a vapor or it's somewhat changing states as it goes. But again, we would say it's 100% vapor if we see that actual evaporation pressure, temperature match the actual line itself, right? Then we'd say, okay, that's a liquid there. Or again, this is kind of superheated. So if you will, let's say your receiver inlet, it gets superheated, and then we flow through here. It makes it a little bit colder, so maybe it subcools it some after it gets superheated, and then it goes back through the actual outdoor evaporator, outdoor heat exchanger, and then we actually get colder again, and so it's being subcooled even more, and then back over to the actual suction line itself. And so if we were to measure subcooling on this and think that that liquid is a liquid, then we would say it's really, really high subcooling restriction, right? But with the way that this system operates over time, being stuck in high discharge temperatures like we have on both modules, suction superheat being high, discharge superheat being high, we kind of have to take subcooling out of the equation and say, okay, this doesn't make any sense. It looks like we are low on charge on this system. What do you want to add to that, Donald?
I think that pretty much nails it, but I think we could have probably skipped a whole bunch of them steps and just gone right to that outdoor heat exchanger and seen the opposite of what we're expecting to see.
Yep.
One of the things I like to equate that to is think about what side of the system that's on and think about what is going on when that compressor is pulling out of that heat exchanger on the outdoor side. So we're coming in, we're hoping we're coming into that as a liquid, into the expansion valves on the outdoor unit as a liquid so that they can cause the pressure drop so that we can use the outdoor coil to pick up heat, but we didn't pick up heat.
We went.
So I always equate that to what side of the system is the other side of the heat exchanger on the outdoor when you're in heat mode. It's on the suction side. So the reason why that's getting so cold is because we're just pulling on it. There's nothing there, and we're just keep pulling on it.
Yep, that's it. So for this, and the other thing you can go to is you go to the outdoor expansion valve pulses. Outdoor expansion valve pulses, they're peg wide open.
Yeah.
What do we know about an expansion valve that's wide open? It's not metering any refrigerant.
Yeah, it's not doing anything.
It's like, hey, go ahead. I don't care. Whatever. Go ahead. Bob's your uncle. I don't care. And so when you have something like this, this shows me that there isn't any liquid to actually turn from a liquid to a vapor. Because when you turn a liquid to a vapor, what happens? Heat transfer. You pick up heat. When my temperature of my refrigerant goes from a cold substance to an even colder substance, right? I'm picking up heat in the wrong direction. You're like, wait a minute. Wait, what's your job? It's that Spider-Man meme where everybody's pointing at each other.
Yeah.
Right? I thought you were supposed to get the heat. No, you get the heat. What's going on here? So again, this system looks like it is really low on charge. Now, again, to Donald's point, we kind of ignore the evaporation pressure because, again, the colder it gets outside, the lower this temperature and pressure is going to be. So again, you're going to find systems where the subcooling valve's peg wide open at -5 degrees outside because it's doing everything it can to survive and to actually put out heat, which is, I'd love to get some low ambient data from our Canadian brothers and actually show what it looks like at -10 degrees outside and how much it beats its head against rocks, just so you can see how bad it is. But I would easily hang this one up on low charge, because again, if you prodded this and you didn't know and you didn't go any deeper, let's just say you just looked at one of my videos on YouTube and you said, okay, 3 pillars, that's all Roman says to talk about. That's all I'm going to use. Screw everything else. You're going to say, okay, high discharge superheat, high suction superheat, high subcooling. Well, that points to a restriction, and it's like, what does it? You have those 3 numbers, but you can see, right, Donald? You can see that you have to go deeper into it.
Yeah.
The valves pinched off. If you had high subcooling and your valves were pinched off at your outdoor unit, then I would say you have a ton of subcooling, right? That's actually subcooling because you're actually building it up. But again, the unit's not restricting anything. Low pulses in heating inside, high pulses outside is the same equivalent in cooling mode where pulses are high inside and pulses are low outside. Right.
You ain't got no flow.
You ain't got no gas, man.
So I think a good point of that too is go back to the indoor section and look at the temperatures. Look at the discharge temperature of the compressor versus the supposed gas temperature on the indoor coils, right? So we're thinking we've got 224, 225 degree discharge temperature off that compressor. In heating mode, remember that discharge pressure minus any subcooling it's picking up from piping or insulation, whatever it may be, that discharge temperature is basically going right to the fan coils, but we're only getting up to 130, 140, which it seems really hot, but one of the things that often is forgotten about is heat radiation, right? So that pipe at the compressor is saying it's 200 degrees, all of that stuff's connected. So the amount of refrigerant that's flowing through that discharge line into the indoor, into the branch selector at this point, because this is heat recovery, I'm sure it's hot up into the branch selector, and then we're just slowly losing our heat as we get to the indoor units. But because that pipe is so hot, it's going to potentially cause this, like an irregularity on this gas pipe temperature where the heat may not be there actually, right? The actual refrigerant temperature might not be there, but the temperature of the pipe is hot because it's been radiated heat all the way along that line.
Yep. And so to that point too, before we wrap it up, take this one home for the day, because it's a lot of information and we don't want to overwhelm you too much with this one podcast. Large changes where there shouldn't be is a huge red flag. If your discharge pipe temp is 224 degrees and your indoor unit is getting 130 degree hot gas, that is a huge temperature fall. There is a problem there. It means your refrigerant is moving really slow or the volume isn't there. And the same with subcooling. If the subcooling liquid temp coming out of your indoor unit is 103 degrees, but it turns to 46 degrees by the time it makes it to the outdoor unit, there is a huge problem. Large temperature differentials where there shouldn't be any, should be none, or limited, is a problem. So, all right, Matthew, that's what you get for calling me a loser. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Matthew, we do appreciate you sending in the data for us to take a look at. It's pretty interesting stuff. I live in a climate where I don't really get cold weather data, so I don't look at it often. So it's pretty neat to see that.
Yes, and here in Florida, I don't even know what heat is, so it's also nice to look at myself. So, hey guys, if you have any data that you want to send us to look at on a podcast, we will make fun of you, no charge. That's easy for us to do, actually. But if you have other topics you want to talk about, we are always open to that. We're just trying to peel back these onions on these mysterious layers that is VRF that you guys want to hear about and know about. Again, this isn't about us just talking to ourselves or talking about things we love to talk about. We want to answer your questions, right? We want to answer topics that you guys have. For all 6 of our listeners out there, feel free to reach out to us and we'll make a topic. So,
no, we do appreciate everybody, and I think my biggest takeaway from this episode is we got to have liquid to make heating and cooling. That's we preach that is we got to have the liquid. If there's no liquid, then there's no heating and cooling.
Yep, that's it. All right.
Well,
everyone. Until next time, everybody, I'm sorry we have to end this one. I didn't do any of my sound effects today, actually. Here we go. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's over, everybody. But next time, just stay tuned, okay? We're going to make another episode. We're going to do these twice a month, maybe, hopefully. Okay. All right.
See you, Roman. Thank you.
Next time, Donald. Thanks, man.
Bye.